Welcome to High Strangeness, where we ask questions and explore all that is strange and unexpected in our reality.
Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. I just wanted to start off real quick by just saying that my guest today is an exciting one. It's one that actually accompanied on episodes 61, 2, and 3, where we talked to James Kelly, who is a abduction experiencer and now an author as well. And his name is Fred Zowie. Now, Zewe, I have to apologize. I seem to always get that name wrong. And he's a good guy and lets me get away with it. But he's an amazing guy. I'm going to read some of his bio here real quick. He is the Nebraska MUFON Assistant State Director since 2020. And he started attending MUFON meetings in the 1990s and became a field investigator in 2010. He graduated from Iowa State University in 1976 with a bachelor's in elementary education. He taught 5th and 6th math in Ogden, Iowa, worked 3 years for C&NW Railroad, and then graduated from Iowa Western in 1982 with an associate's in electronic technology. Fred then started work in 1983 for a government defense contractor as a field engineer for E-Systems, now known as the L3 Harris, in working alongside with U.S. Air Force RC-135 Rivet Joint Program for like 37 years. Fred has spent years in his spiritual studies and meditations, having his first experience in Tokyo in 1985 visiting gurus, and in India in 1987, and then started having numerous dreams and his awakening of his ET encounters through having had missing time, screen memory experiences all the way back in 1974, and with his first UFO sighting and internal messages he's been getting from these entities since 1978. He continued his inner spiritual studies with different studies, NLP, hypnosis, and meditation. He enjoys insights of quantum reality, DMT, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, and other altered states of consciousness. And so, of course, with all these experiences and such a background like this, he is very excited to be the MUFON ERT team member for Nebraska, and actually works with people outside of Nebraska as well. And he supports those who have had ET encounters themselves. So we're going to talk with Fred today. We're going to do this in two parts. So there's going to be this episode and then a second one being released in a day or two afterwards. So join in with me and enjoy as we have Fred with us. Welcome to High Strangeness. I'm Tony, and this is a place where we talk about all things strange and unexpected in our reality. Today I'm excited because I have Fred Zowie. Zewe. Yep. All right, I'm going to get that right one day. Who's been on the episode or on an episode before, actually episodes 61 through 63. And I'm excited to have him back. He is a MUFON investigator and an ERT investigator as well. We'll get into that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to learn some things because Fred not only is an investigator and works in this area, but he also has some other areas of knowledge that we'll probably get in today in our discussion as well. But before we get started, I want to ask you, Fred, how's life? How are things going for you right now?
Good. Like I said, I just got done, doing basic mechanics. Car breaks down. You've got to go order parts and find out, the cost of everything, and things of that nature. Walk the dogs and exercise. I'm retired, so I have a really great work ethic, and get up. First thing I do is go walk the dogs and wake up my consciousness to being very, invigorating, and hit the small breakfast and get on the computer and dig into my spirituality and my MUFON work that I have to do. I spent like 3 hours today on my work, and I finished 2 cases and things of that nature.
Great.
Write them up, things of that nature. So yeah, that's my fun. That's that's everything in a nutshell. I mean, I'm always thinking of spiritual or MUFON, UFOs, latest conspiracy theory to politics and what the Trumpster and looking forward to that, presidency, and all the fun things we're going to be going through. I mean, there is
Oh
going to be
yeah.
a quantum shift. I mean, the
Yes.
whole reality is going to shift, and everybody's feeling it, and what the hell's happening?
It's going to be an interesting thing to see for sure.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'm excited
Absolutely.
for it.
As we're talking about the moment, let me take a minute and ask you about some of the things that are going on right now. For the
Right.
audience, we are taping in the middle of December about. And a
Yeah.
crazy thing is going on right now where there's drones showing up all over the place, but really heavy in the Northeast. Now,
Right.
what do you think about that? Like, I've heard different accounts. Some sound something else, some sound like they were man made drones. What do you think?
Well, it does, here's the question. Where are they? They're flying over what? Military bases. And what's the cover with? Why don't they shoot them down? I mean, they're in
Right.
over the military bases. They are in an active kind of a war scenario. Like you drive a car into a base, guess what? If you don't stop the stop sign, and you go ahead, guess what? Got a sign out there, you trespass, you're likely to get killed.
Right.
I had that happen one time. I was on Offutt Air Force Base. And guess what? The guy he was running from the police and he went through the gate. Somehow he got through there, missed the tire punctures, and he ran through the base for about 10 minutes and they blasted him. They
Wow.
killed him. Yeah.
But they're not kidding.
And no, that was a real deal,
Right.
and so here you got these drones flying all over the place. There's one over I don't know, New Jersey or someplace like that that had six of them flying over the base. Kind of like the balloons that came over, Alaska down through China and down through the United States, crossed Omaha too, and went on down all over the secret bases, and
Yeah.
picked up all the intel that they could possibly do. And then once it got over the ocean, the Atlantic, then they shot it down.
Right.
Does that make
Makes no
does that
sense.
It makes no sense. And here's these drones all over the place. So my ticket is now I go on the conspiracy theory of saying that if you have aliens coming in, you got alien disclosure, and then the big thing about the Independence Day movie, and then the aliens come in, and the alien, the cabal is going to play the alien card and have the alien invasion.
Hmm.
Well, you got to pump this up, and you got to build a threat. You know,
Yeah.
UFOs over the military bases, and they're all around the world, but yet again up in the Northeast, where high military, high government, then they're flying over the Capitol, like the UFOs over Washington in 1952.
Right.
They had UFOs back in 1952 flying over there. Again, July of 52. Why over the 4th? Why over July? And over the Capitol. And then they're saying, were those ours really? Or was that somebody else's? It's the same guess.
Same.
So they're
Yeah.
creating the hysteric, and then creating the atmosphere, and you have to bring the public, and this is, on national news, like drones, 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 and so they say, was it ours or is it theirs? Of course you got, the congressional hearings saying, yeah, we've got recovered military, recovered alien vehicles, ARVs, and then, oh yeah, we have the biologics, which are the
Right.
aliens within the craft.
Yeah.
So, and Luis Elizondo saying, yeah, we have all this stuff, and yes, I'll agree with everything, but you put me in a skip, we'll go talk to the skip, but I can't tell you, I'm not even authorized to tell you that because I just
Yeah.
signed that little document saying I can't even talk about it, even if I'm from the I can't talk
Ah,
about it. So
it's a frustrating environment for sure.
yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And again, it's just theatrics to get everybody hyped up. So when something big happens, and again, it's the alien invasion. If something blows up, let's say something in the DC blows up, like a monument or some building blows up, then that's going to be like the Iraqi attack again. It's like the 9/11 thing,
Yeah.
where he's going to you know So now if you get if Trump does the whole war thing, settles everything down, everything's peaceful, well, you don't have any wars. That's when you bring in the
Right.
alien abduction, the alien invasion thing, where you collectively you get the whole globe fighting against the aliens.
Yes, and hasn't that sounds like Stephen Greer's been what he was preaching forever. He says that's what's going to happen. It's
Yeah.
the objective is to control everything by creating one massive big enemy
Yeah.
for us. Yeah.
Yeah, but Greer, I like Greer because he's the one that says the unacknowledged, you know, and along with uh, Richard Doylan, that we have these unacknowledged organizations, and uh, that are going out and I'm trying to think of the terminology of that. What do you call I'll figure it out here real shortly. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's the whole thing. It's you know we have these unacknowledged organizations that are not funneled through the Congress and having the understanding that that's what the whole congressional thing is like. We need to know. You need to tell us, you know,
Yeah.
and we're not being shown. So I mean, you're lying to us, and
Yeah.
you lied. That's a federal offense. You can go to prison for that stuff. And they just like, no big deal. Just press
Right.
on. And then you find out that Pentagon forking out the money to to these organizations, and things of that nature. So that's the thing is that's really kind of great, crazy, and I'm just thinking of
Well,
uh,
Fred, there's this reminds me of something that just came out, uh,
right,
which is James Fox. Just he's got a new movie coming out called The Program,
right,
and it's about the state and the military industrial complex and the
complex,
secrecy and all that stuff. And it
the
comes out
MIC, the
next
Nick,
week,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
December 16th. Have you
Oh,
heard
cool.
about that?
I have not. I think I've heard of it. I'm just thinking another one too that something's coming out on the 10th. Oh, it did come out on the 10th, and something I missed on the 10th. I like, oh
Mm,
no, But
yeah.
yeah, I was just thinking about Doylan. He's a really good researcher on the UFOs, and he calls them breakaway civilizations. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like the UAPs, but it's the secret space program type scenario. Where you got a group of people working on uh, the reproductive vehicles that they've recovered, and they've already this is way back in Roswell days, back in '47. So
Mm,
they've manipulated and they understand how to work it. Now they're kind of like the Hunabas of Germany, and then they had and what I've come to realize that it was the Foo Fighters, back in World War
right.
II. And Americans are looking at the Foo Fighters, and the Germans are looking at them like, who are these? Who are these? And basically that the Foo Fighters were actually UFOs. They were the real deal.
Yeah.
And
I always
and
thought they
and
were.
it could have been the Germans as well because they all went down to Antarctica. And then that's when Admiral Byrd went down with an armada of yeah, he had an
Yeah.
aircraft carrier, he had the 3 destroyers. I mean, this is not no picnic in a walk in a park. And he
Right.
went down there, knowing that he was going to, maybe have some kinetic type activity. And here comes the ships out of the water, and they blew away, some of the planes, and I think they sunk one destroyer. And
Wow.
then they went out and Bird went over to Argentina and made this talk over there saying that these guys, I said, we're not prepared for this. These guys can go to pole in seconds, and we
Yeah.
have no control. And as soon as he got up there, of course, the DC boys told him zip it, and they threw his ass into some sort of shrink hospital, that cool his
Yeah.
ass down a little bit. So you're not gonna be talking about this stuff,
Yeah. They're
you
like, you're
know?
done talking about this.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, it is interesting. Before we get into the bulk of our meeting here,
Right,
our interview, the drones. There's a lot of them coming out of from the ocean. Like
right,
recently, there's been a lot of. They're seeing swarms of them on the East Coast
sure.
side. Now we think of that, off of the California coast, but now here they are coming from the East Coast. It's really weird. Yeah.
Yeah, they were basically everywhere, even down in Catalina. That's where the Tic Tacs were. And then they had,
Right.
I think, Greaves or not. There's Commander Fravor and
Yeah.
Ryan Reeves, or
R-
what's his name?
Ryan
Ryan
Graves.
something. Yeah, something Reeves.
Yeah.
He saw him over in East Coast, and they even saw him over in, over in Middle East too.
Yeah.
And so it's not just one place, and they can focus on one place, but yet again, this is the story picture that we're being talked about. It's over on the Northeast where all the political BS is going on and all the stuff is being mixed up, and all the
Yeah.
stories and are ramped up, and who knows what's going on over there. So yeah,
It's crazy. Well, there
that's
you go, people. That's the current events right now in December 2024. But we're going to hop in here and we're going to learn a little bit about MUFON, but not just MUFON. We're going to learn about Fred's path into MUFON. Fred, you are retired now and you're a MUFON investigator.
right.
Tell the group, what led you to MUFON? Like, how did you even get involved? How did you say, I want to do that?
Well, I was I was in college and I had an experience, and I was with a fraternity brother, and we were kind of building, remodeling a room, and he told me, "Hey, let's go to Rhinebeck, Iowa, and drive up there, and there's a Rocky Mountain oyster feed, and there's street dance. It's a July evening on a Saturday night. What more fun than it is to drive up to Rhinebeck for an hour and a half and go drink some beers and see what we can run into trouble or some some girlfriend or whatever we want to do, And so we said, what the hell, we're young kids, went up there, and on the way back, we left about midnight, and as I was driving home, I kind of knew the back roads. We didn't have GPS back in those. This is back in
Oh, yeah.
1974.
How did we live without that? I'll tell you.
I tell you, man, I mean, you pull out the old Iowa map, because I'm
Hmm.
from Iowa, and but you always remember stuff. You just start to remember. Oh, I remember this county road. I'm in this county road. I kind of had a job up in that area. So I thought I've been to Rhinebeck before. And the reason I went is because one of my cousins lives up there. I said, well, maybe I'm run into her, at the street dance.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, out of the blue, Rhinebeck, Iowa, out of like little farm town, up in northeast central Iowa. So I was driving back, and all of a sudden I'm driving down the road, I'm thinking I'm going right way, and all of a sudden I get this really lost feeling, like I am like lost. I don't know where I'm going. I'm driving, I'm pruning, and like I don't get where I'm going. And then I said, all of a sudden I figure I'm going north, and I should be going southwest.
Hmm.
Totally in the wrong direction, right? I said, I'm going to take the next available road. I mean, this is nighttime now. You're talking about 12:30 at night. It's dark, and I'm seeing lightning storm strike, coming out from the south, from down in Des Moines. And I'm going to take the next road because I know there's a county road, paved road going that way. So I'm just going to take the next road, whatever it is. So I do. So I'm driving down and I take it. It's a freaking gravel road, a gravel road. So I go hauling my ass down the road, and all of a sudden, probably no more than maybe 50 feet in front of me, and this energy kind of comes over the top of me, and then I see this T intersection sign. I see a ditch in the sign there, and I know I'm gonna launch the car right into the ditch, and hit that sign, because I'm hauling balls down this gravel road. So what do? I slam on the brake, and all of a sudden the car just like did a perfect turn to my right, and it stayed on the top of the crown of the road. And gravel roads are crowned, remember? If you slide, you're going to slide
Yeah.
right off into the ditch. But I stay on top of the road, and it stops. And here are these two large cottonwood trees. I mean, they're large trees. Two of them, not just one, two, parallel across the road.
Hmm.
And I can't even open my door. That's how close I am to the trees. And I looked over at Tom, my fraternity brother. I said, Tom, did you see the T intersection sign? He goes, no, but I'm glad you did. And I'm saying, like, you see the tree? He goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can't even open the door. And I'm thinking, is this divinely guided? Like did I get a vision, that
Right.
saved our asses, So I just kind of put it in reverse and jockeyed back and forth, and off I went in the same direction I went. So from that point on, Tom and I never said another word to ourselves for the next hour. Got home to the fraternity house, and that morning I'm like, and I'm walking up to the fraternity house. I hear the birds chirping. Birds chirp like loud, loud. I'm like, this got to be like 4:30 in the morning. Birds chirp around that time, 4:30, 5 o'clock, 4:30. And they're just going at it. You know how they just go at it. And so I can key in on that. And it took me, I think years later, then I'm thinking, if we left Rhinebeck at 12:30, and it only takes an hour and a half to go. I mean, I should have been back at 2 o'clock in the evening or in the morning.
Whoa, something's wrong.
Yeah, so you add the numbers up. So I'm like, okay, no big deal, but then 2 years later, 3 years later in 1978, so that's 4 years, excuse me, 4 years later. So I'm working on the railroad. I graduated out of college in 76 and worked a job in 1976 to 77 teaching school and elementary education. And then I get a job on working on the railroad. And I'm going, all of a sudden there was a lull in the work, which is kind of unusual, So I'm sitting on this machine, and just mind my own business. And all of a sudden this energy comes over the top of me. And I'm like going, what? And I'm like, I'm sky high. And of course, back in those days, you did a lot of smoking some pot and drinking beer, So, I like, this is better than that. I said, I haven't taken drugs like this ever before, and I'm like sky high.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I get this impression to look up. I want to say it's like an empathic. The words there. It's just like, do this now, like,
Yeah.
whoop. So I looked up. And here's this saucer, this 30-foot silver round saucer, kind of
Wow.
implanted in this cloud. There was a cloud, and three-quarters of it sticking out of the cloud. Here again, why am I in this altered state of consciousness and this high state? Think about that. And then all of a sudden, I get this impression to look up. And I'm looking around, looking up and seeing the people walking, and then nobody's seeing anything. I'm looking up like I'm seeing this craft. And then all of a sudden, another impression comes to me, this empathic message saying, oh, we just want to let you know that we are here. We
Hmm.
are here.
Okay, let's talk about this for a minute.
Right.
Um, so you have this. I just want everybody to realize you were not saying you were high. You were saying what you experienced was like the best high you had,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
But
So,
this energy
and you're at
coming over
work,
me.
right? You're at
Yeah.
work.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm work. I'm very, you know, I don't come to work drunk and I'm very
Right.
methodical. I'm a school teacher,
Right. Hmm.
I'm clean.
Yeah. I just want to make sure people know that just so
Yeah.
they don't misunderstand. And you see this thing and you get information from it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Wow. That's crazy. Now you're in your 20s at this time, is that right?
Yeah. So I was
And this
probably 34 or 24 at the time.
okay. And this sets you up, right? This sets you down this path, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. So you left this experience knowing something now. And is that
But
what you said? This in my life I'm going to find out what this is. Is that what it was?
well, it really didn't make a whole lot of beeswax to me, so to speak. I said, okay, I saw craft, and I had this
Yeah.
other thing, I really didn't understand the trees, I still thought it was, I didn't think, I didn't have any understanding about aliens at that time.
Hmm.
So I just thought this was divinely guided.
Yeah.
But I remember these cues about it and the trees. I mean, but then I had to look back at the trees. I go, what huge. I mean, these trees are probably 3 or 4 foot in diameter, had fallen across the road. What caused the trees to fall
Yeah.
over the road? I said, then you start thinking about that. It's like there's nothing that could have caused those trees to fall over at that time. There's not a wind. There's not a windstorm. There's no nothing. but
Hmm.
these trees had fallen across the road, right? So this is when I started going, so I had a girlfriend. I went through a whole series of dreams, and of course I got into MUFON back in 1990, and so I had all my 80s, and then again I got out of the railroad and went to got a associate's degree in electronics at Iowa Western, and then everything just became synchronistic.
Hmm.
Everything in my life just went cattywampus. It's like I got this feeling that told me, oh, the friends that you have that you went out with, they're gone.
Hmm.
And I would walk into, bars I said, there's nobody here. None of my friends are here. And I was just like burned, and when I entered college, I told myself, there's something I need. It's like this intuitive feeling came in and said, there's something I need to know, but I don't know what it is. There's something that's going to come to me.
Hmm.
So I went all through school and I saw some guy doing some transcendental meditation. I said, well, that's kind of it, but not really. But then I just was like curious about it, but I like didn't really play into it all that much. Just like the trees and this UFO. I don't know anything about aliens. What's the big deal? We just want to let you know that we're here. That was the message.
Right.
And they showed themselves to me. So I'm like, oh, okay, no biggie. I didn't talk to anybody, about it, and nobody said anything about UFOs. UFOs wasn't a big deal back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I come back from 2 years of working on, and then I started having a series of dreams and experiences. I had this job. I went and meeting girlfriends and it one thing played after another. I mean that I kind of went this one girlfriend just took me literally from all the kind of sobered me up a little bit and falling in love and all that stuff went away and I started more maturing as a young male adult and I'm like, oh, this is what life is like, falling in love with a girl, and the synchronicity is here's this crazy thing of meeting this girl. So I'm working on the railroad and we moved into Ames, and this is my heyday place, going back to Ames college days, and I'm going, I need to find a place to live, right? And so I go in the local deli, Dugan's Deli, which is always a place to play foosball and drink beer, right? And I said, I'm going to meet some friend there, and I need a place to live. I said, I just need a place to sleep. I'm working from 6 o'clock in the morning till, 8, 9 o'clock at night. I'm working 14, 15 hours a day on the railroad, right? And
Hmm.
I just need a place to crash. I'm going to be back up. And sure enough, I walked into the deli and there's my buddies, and I said, ah, he said, hey, does anybody know if they have a room or something? I just need a room to sleep in. He goes, hey, you're in luck. I said, how's that? He goes, one of my roommates just moved out of the house and you can have that. I said, sign me
Wow.
up. I'll take it, and told me what the price was, I said, come on over. And so I walked over next day and I'm bringing my stuff in. And one of the guys living there, he goes, Fred, you're in luck. I'm like, what do you mean I'm in luck? He says, guess what? There's 7 girls living next door.
This
I'm
could be
like,
trouble.
what? I know. I said, well, I mean, the girl next door, and it's like, how cool would that be to meet a girl next door, right? So a month passes, and I happen to one evening, these guys, they drive like 70 miles back to home and then come back and says, hey, you guys, this Wednesday night, just plan on, we're going to go out drinking, I mean, when you work hard, you drink hard too. So this is one of those scenarios.
Right. Right.
And so he goes, fun, you guys can stay at my place, and you don't have to drive. We'll just go out and have a party out, have a good time. He says, fine, man, let's do it. So sure enough, we went out and bar hop and came around, went to this one bar. There wasn't a whole lot of people in this one bar, and I walk up to the bar and sit there. And after about 15 minutes, 2 girls come walking into the bar, and there's lots of places to sit. No, they just come up and sit right beside me.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, this doesn't happen like all the time, like, well, this is kind of fun. So these girls come up and they chit chatted, with them a little bit. And next thing you know, is like we're out dancing, and eventually, I'm really liking this girl, and I said, hey, this still happens. This still happens again. One of my fraternity brothers is getting married next Saturday. This is like a Thursday night, says, hey, I'd like to go to a wedding with me, I says, yeah, I love that. I love weddings, I said, well, where do you live, and I said, oh, I live over in Hayward Street. I like Hayward Street. Um, I live on Hayward Street. What's your address? 514. I live at 512. It's one of the 7 girls next door.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
I'm like, you can't make these stories up. And
Right.
so I met her. And I mean, I was so drunk. I didn't remember her name, so I probably figured her name out, and the whole get go. I met her the next day and I chatted with her and things of that nature. And then ended up we started having a relationship in 2 years. We had this relationship for 2 years, and then it eventually came to the point where, I am thoroughly in love and I could feel these energies coming off of her. This is where this psychic awareness kind of came through with me. I could sense her. I could feel. I mean, when you're in love, you got this
Hmm.
wave of level of consciousness that you don't really know that what you had, what how that feels, and I could feel her, and I could just like, this is something different I've. Ever felt before.
So, Fred,
And
is this young lady reciprocating? Does she feel and be able to do the same thing, or was this something that was developing in you?
in me, and she's a very kind young lady, and
Yeah.
she was interior design, and she's kind of did the graphic artist, and so she
Hmm.
had a creativity about her. So I was feeling her, and I was feeling the sensations. But there was something about her that she got into a religion, the Christian faith, and so I thought, okay, I'll go with the flow, and we kind of played around with that a little bit. And I would go to these Baptist churches, and I would get sky high. I mean, I would just get sky high. I'd go, and I felt like I'm floating out of the church and walking. Well, I said I could float. I don't know what it is. I'm just getting in the vibe of this divine.
All right.
I don't know what it was. I'm just getting into it. Like I can't get enough hurt. You know,
So
I
let
don't
me ask you a question. Is this the doctrine that's getting into you, or is it just the feel, the spirit of the place?
spirit.
Okay.
It's the spirit.
Gotcha.
It's the spirit of the divine. And I said, I can't get enough because once these people start talking about God and the love and all this other stuff, I'm in love with this girl and I'm just, I'm just starting to flame and this energy is just ripping through me. And all of a sudden she goes to work on a Saturday morning and I'm in the apartment, I say, okay, I said, I got to finish some graphic work, da, da, da. And while I was there in the apartment, I said, the phone's going to ring and it's going to be something I want to know. I need to know. I mean, this just came over me. And sure enough,
Hmm.
about 15 seconds later, the phone rings and it's my girlfriend, Gail. Just come on down. I'm talking to my boss. He's talking about these universal truths and metaphysics. I'm like, what's that? She said, well, just come on down. So I went down there and I learned about metaphysics, dream time and all this other stuff, school of metaphysics that they learn how to uh, meditate and talk about Akashic records. And I was going and I like, sign me up. I said, this is it. I mean, that was the trigger.
Wow.
I said, that's it. That's what I've been waiting for from the very beginning of my college days. I said, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what I'm here for, to understand. I've got into my dreams and I write my dreams down every morning. We were doing fruit fast. We were interpreting various different things about dreams. You learn how about dream time. Learn, and I kept on going, Fred, I said, being the Christian, I said, where's heaven at? You know? And they said, heaven is a state of consciousness. It's not a place. I'm like, what?
Hmm.
I said, what do you mean by state of consciousness? like dimensional realities, it's higher states, and like. So I'm kind of combining this idea like God, God's in this higher, feeling this energy, I'm
Mm.
feeling a higher state, and I like, and then the whole idea was, I mean, so I'm stepping out of in fact, I was kind of in like in this really religious, uh, I'm trying to think of the name of the group, and it was actually a Bible study group on Iowa State, and the Des Moines Register was even writing in on it, saying, and that's kind of a separation of church and state, and they were trying to kick the guys out of
Mm.
this religious, having using the state board, the state schools to hold their Bible verses. But these guys never, I mean, they were shepherding big time.
Yeah.
This college kids, it's like, well, we don't want you to get tempted, and move away from Ames because we want to make sure that you're safe and you're not going to be tempted by, distractions and get taken off. And I'm like, they never came around me
Mm.
for some reason, But but I just was curious, how the Christian religion and how the shepherding took place, and they were really biblically structured and things of that
Yeah.
nature. And
So
that's just
can
a
I ask
real,
you? Can I ask you a question then? So you mentioned Baptist before. So you're in that you're getting fired up. You feel
yeah,
something, right? And now you're also looking into this. Is it metaphysical? Is that the right term?
metaphysics, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So now you have two things. One is more, God is heaven is it's a state, right? And then you
right,
have the Baptist religion or
right,
religions like that are more literal about heaven.
right,
So are
exactly.
you now jumping back and forth trying to figure out how you're going to put these together, or are you leaning now in one direction?
Definitely metaphysical,
Okay.
definitely metaphysical, and that's what happened. She became a reborn Christian, and she says, "You don't fit in my wheelhouse anymore, so to speak."
Oh wow.
And what happened is she could not tell me that she was done, and it was all of a sudden, we were living together. It was 2 weeks before we were supposed to get married. So
Oh my.
she went all through all her showers and all her wedding things of that nature. And 2 weeks before, and we were living together, and she walked up to me a Friday morning right before I was going to work, and she says, tomorrow, my dad and my brother are coming, and we're going to load up their truck, and I'm going back to Cedar Falls. I'm going, what?
Wow.
And
Complete surprise for you or no?
yeah,
Yeah.
total surprise, total surprise.
Wow.
And
Sorry you had to go through that. That's crazy.
well, and actually, it was a blessing in disguise,
Yeah.
so to speak. You know, I went through I went through hell. I mean, that I didn't go home that night, and I didn't come back until about 10:30, thinking they were already gone. And so I came in, and they were just there, and she goes, "Oh, I really wanted to talk. I know I didn't come home last night because I wanted to talk with you." I said, I couldn't possibly go home last night,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
night, because I could not even face her. I felt so betrayed. I played the big victim, and the whole wheelhouse of that. I just felt kicked to the curb, and I just totally distraught, totally just
Yeah.
what the hell? Just, I mean, I'm fully in love with this woman. I mean, I'm envisioning children with her. I'm 10 years down the road with this woman already,
Right.
and the dream shattered. The dream
Yeah.
just totally shattered, and it shattered my ego. It shattered every belief pattern I had. I just, and after she left, that's when it really hit me. I think the second night I went out and laid out in the grass in the outside of the apartment that I was living in, and I kind of looked up to the stars and I said, God, you need to show up, or I'm out of here. I mean, I
Mm.
am seriously thinking like, didn't sign up for this crap, and I was very vehemently upset, depressed, you know. And when she left that morning, I sat there and I went, I mean, I mentally lost it. I mean, all of a sudden my body started shaking. I started
Mm.
crying gutturally, and then I would shift to hysterical laughter, and I would go back between these two states of totally guttural crying to hysterically laughing. It's like, and I go, is this where you lose it mentally? Like having a mental
Right.
breakdown. And
Right.
I'm going through all this. I'm like, what the freak is going on? So the next night, again, I said, you better show up. I gave God this ultimatum: you better show up, or I'm out of here. So I go to bed that night, and I fell asleep, and all of a sudden I had this instantaneous dream. And I'm looking, and I see this doorway, and it's glass, and then I see myself sitting up in a bar stool, kind of like, and I kind of look, and all of a sudden I see myself in the bar on the bar stool. I see myself melt off the bar stool
Hmm.
to a puddle of water on the floor. Get the picture. I just melted,
Yeah.
and here I'm a puddle of water on the floor. And then a voice came to me and said, "Fred, wake up." And all of a sudden, thunk, I woke up. I'm in sleep paralysis. My body's totally paralyzed. Never felt this ever before in my life. In the room, just like in this room here, I see stars, and they're all aligned, and everything, and the whole room is lit up, totally lit up in light. And I could see into the bathroom. I could see into my closet, but I can't move, and I can only move my eyeballs.
Hmm.
And I got this mirror that's like a 3 by 5 mirror over on my dresser drawers, and there's a movie playing on the mirror. It's a movie showing me as a little junior high kid and another little boy in junior high school, and we're riding our bicycles in front of my junior high school. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm watching this movie being played out,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing all these stars and all this energy in the room light up. I mean, just lit up the whole room. And all of a sudden, I
Fred,
hear this. Go
this
ahead.
movie, this movie that you're seeing, is this a peering back into moments in your past as well, or is it something
I don't
different?
remember. I don't remember the boy. I don't remember who the young boy I was playing with.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
The bicycles are totally different, you know. But I know the place. I was at in front of my junior high school. And there's a big cement platform where we just riding around,
Mm-hmm.
just playing around, riding our bikes, just like in circles and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I hear this tone, doo 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 doo. And all of a sudden, I just blink, blink, blink my eyes, and all of a sudden, everything disappears, and I wake up, and the room is totally pitch dark in the room.
Wow.
And I'm like going, so I think back at it, the stars is kind of like the quantum. It's the quantum world. You're in a higher state of consciousness. You're in this alternate cosmic awareness, it could even be the grid, so to speak, of the reality. But then
Hmm.
the mirror was to basically telling me, Fred, you are working with someone, young man here. You're working with him, but you're at a junior high level and understanding this reality. And then the tones is like you're at a higher state. We went do 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 do. So you go from going from a higher state to a lower state, and you wake back up into beta consciousness.
Wow.
So that was
Interesting.
another kicker.
So how does this play into
MUFON,
you are an ERT investigator too.
right?
Does all this come into play as you work with people? Well, actually, let's take a minute and help people understand ERT investigator. What is
ERT
that?
is
What you do, and then let's see how that ties into your
right.
experiences.
ERT is an experiencer research team, and the MUFON is they finally decided instead of just looking at the nuts and bolts of ufology, seeing crafts and stuff, they
Hmm.
decided, hey, if we're going to get anywhere, let's take the people who are like myself. Over time, I have encountered ET encounters. So people who see the craft, and then you know, all of a sudden the next thing you know, these people are seeing aliens or they're up on the craft, and some of the great stories like Kim Carlsberg and the old various and Kim, she feels like she's been taken, and then her eggs are being taken. They gets into the alien agenda, like with Dr. John Mack, the psychiatrist from Harvard. He got
Hmm.
in and Bud Hopkins, and intruders. and then you have Whitney Strieberg and Communion. They had the alien face on his front of the book, and the number of people that first time would see that, they would freaking freak out because they've seen that face before, and that the unconscious part of themselves awakened by the image, like so now this
Right.
is so now this is like everybody's waking up to this reality, and you got this psychiatrist, head of the Department of Psychiatry in Harvard, top dude. And he went to Bud Hopkins and learned, the hypnosis. And he goes, I can't wrap this stuff around my head, I'm totally intrigued what this is. And so he brings the people in and he goes, these people are totally sane. But
Right.
they've had these experiences just like my experience, the craft, I'm here, we just want to let you know here I have all of a sudden I've got missing time in that first experience with the trees. It's missing time. And as I come into the awareness of UFOs and ETs, well, guess what? Guess what those trees were?
Hmm. I want to know. Oh no, what just happened? I know you're thinking, what were those trees? How can you stop right here? Well, that's the end of part 1 of this episode and interview. Come back in a day or two where you'll get the rest of the information. Up to this point, we've seen Fred, kind of how he evolves and his path to get to the point where he's a MUFON investigator and an ERT investigator. He's had some experiences and he's had some challenges that's made him think about different things as he's gone through his relationship with this young woman that he was with. And now he's remembering back some things that have happened in some of his past experiences. And it's going to set up like the path for him going forward to how he has become an ERT investigator going forward. So come back for episode part 2 in the next day or two.
Thank you for listening to High Strangeness. This was a glance at some of the strange that exists in our reality.